Okay, is this going to work? It's loading. You're alive. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, you can hear me? Yeah. Hello. Welcome. This is Hasper TV, and today I've got David to speak about Aston Villa. Yeah. Hey. So how are you, David?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Result yesterday makes life a lot easier, makes it a more enjoyable weekend, especially given the teams that in and around us dropping points left, right, and centre. Not a bad weekend for Spurs.
I
So
mean, it's been a brilliant weekend, I think, for
yeah,
us.
yeah. It's not
I
very
mean,
often
West
we get
Ham lost.
weekends like this where everyone else drops points and we don't. It doesn't happen very often, so you got to make the most of it when it does, I suppose.
I mean, first of all, I think we should talk about the first half because
Yeah.
for the first half for me was a bit on the shaky side, to be honest. I mean, we scored an early goal, nice early goal with Son, and then we sort
It
of
was a
fell back
great
into
finish. It was
we
a
fell
great
back into
finish.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a great finish in the kind of reaction time he had to hit it. It had to
Yeah.
be hit straight away and it had to be hit right. I think from the minute that goal scored, we kind of went, yeah, cool, Villa are shit. And then didn't really do anything. Passes were a little bit sloppy. Transition wasn't great. Pressing was still okay, but Villa were passing through it quite easily. It wasn't a top tier press. It was almost like a press because we know we need to press rather than press in a logical way to win the ball back. We had a couple of odd chances in the first half after the goal, but to be honest, I was sitting there at half time going, it's only a matter of time before Villa equalise. How we've gone in at 1-1, 1-0 rather, I don't know. That was my thought at half time personally.
But also for me, weren't you quite worried that Villa were going to score? Because I felt as I was watching the game, someone like Coutinho was getting a lot of room and a
Yeah.
lot of my worry was also before the game was Coutinho was going to get into these pockets and cause us a lot of problems because they were playing with a 4, and then you'd have the 4-3-3 would turn essentially to they would have the 2 strikers, and then Coutinho would just float. And I felt like he was just given so much room and float, and we weren't picking him up. And,
yeah, I think the biggest...
and that for me was causing the most danger. But did you think we dealt with Coutinho all right? I'm talking in general now, not just the first half. Because I was personally, for me, I was shitting it when he got the ball.
Yeah, he had far too many chances. I think the free kick that Lloris threw himself into the net to save was a heart in the throat moment. Yeah. I was sitting there thinking this is not going to end well. But I think we dealt with him okay. I think it was more a case of the chances Villa had. They needed maybe 1 or 2 extra parts. Like, for example, the chance that Danny Ings had where it was flicked on and then he had a shot. Realistically, if that ball's along the ground and passed into him, he probably scores. And there were quite a few chances like that for Villa in the first half. And I think it wasn't necessarily down to not being able to defend as a whole. I think the speed in which Villa actually passed through us was the biggest problem. I think Dyer, Davies, Romero, a little bit, Emerson, Doherty, and then obviously when Reguilon came on, I think that first half they were a little bit slow reacting to some of the 1-2s, and they were very simple 1-2s. It wasn't like Villa were playing sophisticated football. It was triangles of play that were pulling players out of position. And as I said, actually, for anyone that's watching this that follows me on TikTok, I said the last few weeks, Dyer looks shaky. He looks okay, but he looks shaky a little bit under pressure. I think sometimes the speed in which the ball is moved, if we were to play against a Man City who can do that and do it accurately, then I think we'd have a problem. I think at the moment, to get to the end of the season, touch wood, it's going to be fine. But I think just a little bit of reaction time was missing, which made some of their chances, I think, look a little bit better than they actually were. I think we were just a little bit slow to react to the speed at which they were passing. Excuse me.
I mean, before the game, Gerald was talking a lot about taking the game to us in that sort of sense, and I think they kind of did. And for me, in the first half, we felt like you said, we took the lead, and I felt, oh no, this is typical Tottenham. We're just sitting back now, and I felt like at times we just couldn't get out. And then once we thankfully got to the second half and got that half time, obviously Conte got them in, gave them a little rollicking, whatever, and we came out with a very different mentality.
Something that impressed me was the resilience to get in at halftime. Players were absolutely throwing themselves in front of the ball to stop the ball getting to Lloris. And then when it did get to Lloris, which I was adamant he was going to make a mistake in the first half, given how many chances they had. But when they threw themselves on the line and it didn't get blocked, Lloris was equal to it and was outstanding. I mean, the Jacob Ramsey chance, for me personally, a little bit of an experience, a little bit of the fact that it was his weak foot, but an outstanding save for Lloris. And again, maybe a little bit quicker reaction from a defender. Maybe they get across there rather than letting him get the shot away first. We've seen Lloris both save those kind of chances and pretty much pick them up and throw them in his own net. So it was a case of what Lloris are we going to get? And based on last week against Newcastle, I thought we were going to get a howler of Lloris again. Instead, we had the Lloris that won the World Cup. That was consistent with Spurs for years. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is down to the fact that Ben Davies and Eric Dyer are natural defenders. Ben Davies, Eric Dyer, they're not natural centre backs. So they're going to be a little bit slower reacting, which is why Romero looked, I think, better maybe than he actually was. He was still outstanding, but maybe slightly better than he was because he was able to deal with those because he is a natural defender. Obviously, Doherty, as you said, played on the weak side, and I'm not even going to talk about Reguilon's defending ability because, no. And then Emerson, who we both said, and Spurs fans have said countless times, is better defensively than he is offensively. He did absolutely fantastically yesterday at dealing with Digne. There wasn't a decent cross he was able to get in, apart from the one which Ollie Watkins put over the bar. He was outstanding defensively yesterday. And if he could add consistent cross into his game, he'd be perfect for Spurs. Defensively, in a game like that, having a fullback who can defend to that level took the pressure off some of the defence because they weren't getting as many balls into the box as they would have done previously. And I think that allowed the defense just enough to withstand over the first half.
But so on Emerson Percy myself, I think he'll be one of the first defenders to leave in the summer. I don't think Conte really fancies him. Another question I was going to ask you though.
Go on.
All right. So when you saw the team sheet and you saw Doherty and Emerson again, would you have rather Sessegnon or Reguilon came in? Obviously, I know Reguilon came on later in the game because of the injury. Or did you feel like he went the right way to stick with the winning team? I think he went the right way,
and I'll tell you why. Because he spoke in an interview the other day. I don't know if you've read it. He spoke about Doherty and how when he first came into Spurs, his work rate wasn't there, his drive wasn't there, the effort level wasn't there, and he pretty much accepted the fact that his Spurs career was done. Then when the opportunities started coming, where actually, hold on, there's an option at left back and at right back for a change of fullbacks at any point, because none of our fullbacks have been consistent to a high level this season.
To be starters,
the work rate and the effort change he's made, the goals and assists he's starting to get, even though he's been playing on the left, he looks more like the Wolves fullback, wing back, than the one that we got initially. And that mentality change for me is the reason why he deserves to be in. Reguilon apparently can't make his mind up as whether he wants to be here or not. And Sessegnon plays 10 minutes and then breaks a collarbone. So at this point, there was no reason why Doherty shouldn't start. And for me personally, I said if he played half the way he played against Newcastle, I'd have been happy. And I was actually a bit gutted and a bit worried when he got taken off.
I was too. I have to admit, I was too. I mean, for me with Doherty, he was someone I really liked at Wolves. So I was quite hot. I was quite keen when we were linked with him and we signed him. But do you think Doherty's...
He played in a back four and all of a sudden...
Okay, so I was going to ask you this question. So do you think Doherty's success is more to do with the formation change or Conte or both?
Conte, and I'll tell you why not the formation change. If he was playing on the right and getting the goals and the assists, I'd say a mixture of both. But he's playing on the left using his weaker foot out of a position that he's never really played in. So for me, it's a lot to do with his mentality and his mindset of, I'm going to play where I'm asked to play. I'm going to do a good job. I'm going to be consistent, do the simple things right, and show the manager and the fans why I deserve to play. And if you look at his post-match interviews after the last two games, not this one, but the last few games that he's actually started in, he looks a lot happier. He looks a lot more motivated. He looks a lot more determined. And as far as I'm concerned, if that Doherty continues throughout the summer, if Emerson goes and we bring in a starting right wing back, I'm happy for him to become rotation on either side.
Yeah, me too. I agree with that.
But it has
but
to
with
be
Doherty, do you think also with him? Because whenever I watch him, I'm not saying he's like this because maybe it's just it's the way he like looks. But do you think, like when I was watching him in his early Spurs career, especially, I picked up on this, but I thought he looked like he didn't really care that much. But do you think it's just the way he like? It's like body language is the way it is. It's like
a little bit.
He might look like he don't care, but he's like still putting the effort.
I think it was more a case of when he came into the dressing room, it wasn't what he expected it to be. He had a manager who he did incredibly under, who played with a back three, who played him in a back four. We had obviously the bad eggs in the dressing room, which the togetherness of this Spurs squad I haven't seen since the middle period of Poch or Harry Redknapp period when we were in the Champions League.
Yeah,
I haven't seen a togetherness and a group of players where you look at and go, there's not really a bad egg there. There's not really someone who you think, even Emerson, if he doesn't play or got subbed off early a couple of weeks ago, he's still putting the same posts up, caring about the team, showing a smile, reacting to the fans. I haven't seen a togetherness like this since the final year at the Lane. And then before that, the Champions League charge with Harry Redknapp.
I think for me, partly it's because we got rid of all the bad eggs in January.
100%. Players that were getting starts because we had no other option.
Yeah.
Rather than because they deserved to start.
People like Dele, Lo Celso, and Ndombele who were just causing problems behind the scenes and it didn't help us.
I think Dele was a big one. Dele got very stale, and if you have a stale piece of bread in a counter full of fresh bread, eventually the fresh bread's going to go moldy. All right, fresh bread naturally goes moldy anyway, but you clear it out while it's
what you're saying
before it goes moldy. Do you know what I mean though? And I think the work rate of the other players, especially the two new signings, has helped Doherty massively. I feel like the group's become a bit more friendly again.
It's more together for me. It feels like it's more together.
I feel like the group's more friendly, but it also has a killer instinct to it.
Yeah.
Under Jose, we had the killer instinct, but there was no
togetherness.
Which was complete opposite of what we needed. And under Poch, towards the end, there was all the togetherness until it flaked off, and we never really had the killer instinct under Poch after we left White Hart Lane. We never recovered from that. On the topic of Emerson, and I agree with you, he'll probably be one of the first players out.
I was going to ask you about him just now, actually. Do you think Emerson can make it as a wing back? Because for me, this is just my observations, and I'll just ask your opinion straight after, right?
Yeah.
So I think he comes in too much. And when I watched Conte, for example, because where I sit at Tottenham, Conte's like below me, right? Yeah. So I see like Conte screaming like all game, right? And I noticed with him, for example, someone like Reguilon, if the wing back's on his side, obviously in the second half that will be the other wing back anyway. But with Reguilon, for example, in Reguilon's first game, he was screaming at him to go on the touchline, right? Screaming at him. And when I watch Emerson play, I think he's sort of, for me, he comes inside too much. I think he needs to be right on the touchline to have like a proper effect on like as a wing back. I know what you're saying. Defensively, he's all right. But like to work in this sort of system for me, he needs to have some sort of end product. I mean, we know his crossing is a big issue, but and also for me, when I watch him, he feels like he's still playing as a right back rather than a wing back. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think.
But what do you think? Like, do you think he can adapt his game? Do you think he like?
I have the complete opposite issue. So when I watch Reguilon play, I don't think he takes on a man enough. With the pace level he's got, I think he comes inside far too often and passes into centre midfield.
Yeah, with Emerson, he has a similar issue. But
with Emerson, he spent the last couple of months playing further wide, putting crosses in that we were sitting there going, like, if someone nailed Jesus to one of his crosses, he'd still be alive. Do you know what I mean? So, I'll get the Easter funny there. Why not?
The analogy, yeah.
Why not? The Emerson Real has accepted the fact that his crosses are just not good enough.
Yeah,
and whether
exactly.
he's trying to work on them privately or whether he just doesn't want to work on them, that remains to be seen. Defensively, we saw, as the way he defended Digne at the weekend, he can do a job defensively. For me personally, he was better looking for the inside pass, playing the overlaps with Kulusevski, and almost becoming an extra option slightly more central with Kulusevski further out wide. He was better like that than him being out wide and then crossing a ball.
Exactly. Yeah, but do you think
I don't think he'll make it long term, but I think he may get another season. It depends on whether or not he has the actual. It depends on whether he has the actual desire to improve his crossing or not. And it depends on whether clubs see the priorities as well. If Reguilon goes, for me, Reguilon and Sessegnon could do with going this summer, which at that point, then you've got to prioritise at least one
wing back, left wing back,
on the left, with Doherty being rotation on the right. At that point, with the other signings that are more of a priority, I don't necessarily feel like it might be this season. And I think Emerson's work rate, you can't question. You know, his work rate is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think his passing level and his consistency of passing has improved. He just can't cross.
Yeah, that's true.
If he gets, I still believe if Emerson, I still think the same thing about Reguilon, to be honest, whether he goes or not. If they both get someone in consistently good, who's good at both ends of the pitch and can cross, both of their games will raise massively. Emerson especially. Reguilon, I worry he might just throw his teddies out the pram and cave in. I'm not getting game time. This is ridiculous, whatever. But I think Emerson specifically, I think he has the work rate and the hunger to improve that extra little bit. And even if he doesn't, as a rotation option, I'd rather our rotation for a fullback be more defensive. Let's say we're beating Man City 3-2 like we were. And last 10 minutes, you need someone to come in.
Chuck him on. Yeah,
he's going to stop De Bruyne getting crosses in from wide. Then you bring someone like Emerson on, and he can do that job. Is he going to be the sort of person to put a Trent-esque cross into the box? Absolutely not.
No.
But if we bring in someone who can do that, we've got an option offensively and an option defensively, where they can both do the other role a little bit, but not to a high level, but they're both specialities in each department. One's exceptional attacking, one's exceptional defending. They're both pretty average in the other department. It gives us more options there, more versatility.
But like for me, I kind of have the opposite opinion. So I quite like Reguilon, and I don't think the left wing back position will be strengthened because I think Conte kind of likes Sessegnon as well. And I think with Reguilon, when I watch him, I think he has a higher ceiling than someone like Emerson for me. But obviously with Reguilon, there's obviously, like you said, there's a debate whether he's going to stay or not. We won't know till the summer. But like for me, because obviously we can't solve all our issues in one window, I think we have to be careful about what positions we strengthen.
Yeah.
And I think if Sessegnon and Reguilon stay, I don't think there's a need for a left wing back right now. I think right wing back for me is more of a need because I think Doherty is good as a cover, but I do think we need like a really elite right wing back. And obviously Conte wanted one in January because I think there was a lot of talk, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
And then obviously,
then my question to you then, if you're saying that Reguilon's good enough to start and do a good job and Sessegnon's Conte's choice, why is he starting Doherty over both of them?
I mean, Reguilon just came back. But,
but it doesn't matter. If you're good enough and you're fit enough to be on the bench and you're good enough to start.
And like my argument was, that's why I asked you the question at the beginning. Do you think he left the 11 because that was we liked living in a winning team, or do you think he left it because he's out of favour of Reguilon and Sessegnon?
I think it's a mixture of both.
Right? Yeah.
Because realistically, you don't pick Doherty to start on the left-hand side unless either he's bagging 2 goals, 2 assists every game, or you don't really feel like you have another choice.
Yeah.
Which is what makes me think Reguilon.
I'm only asking your opinion on it, so I'm not going to shoot you down if you don't rate Reguilon. That's what you think.
I think Reguilon has a similar problem to Emerson. Reguilon isn't consistent and doesn't really make the right decisions in the final third. And I think Reguilon is worse defensively than Emerson. He's just got a bit more pace.
Yeah, I think his pace kind of covers it up a bit. Like, Walker's early days. Remember Walker's early days where he'll just go up and then he'll just have to run back.
And then every time he get caught in possession, he'd literally sprint, stand in front of someone.
Exactly. Yeah. Carl Walker early days.
But this is something that, like, when I think about Reguilon, I look at his age. I look at Walker. Walker still can't cross now at 32.
Yeah, I know. He's like 35. Why is he on now?
32, 33, something like that.
Yeah.
So I worry that if Reguilon wants to go now and the offer on the table is 45 million, for me, that is too high to turn down because you could bring in
2 players with that, probably.
Potentially,
You could probably buy both fullbacks out of that, I'd say. Depending on who you're getting in, I guess.
You could buy a starting right back. You could buy a first team left back and then have Doherty and Emerson as the two options on the right. It's just whether or not you'd want those two. I would like to see us try Lucas at wing back, because when he played against Arsenal 2 years ago under Jose, he had more tackles than both other
teams combined.
He was sensational, and even though he can't necessarily cross, I still think he'd be a bit better in the final third than Emerson. And I don't think he'd be like when we play Norwich, final game of the season.
Yeah,
Lucas should start a wing back, because what are Norwich going to do? All right, they beat Burnley 2-0 today.
It depends if we fight for top 4 still. Then that's the question. No, start an experiment like that.
Yeah, I've seen some people say start Kulusevski at right wing back. For me personally,
I agree with you. Right, I fancy Lucas at wing back. If we're going to pick an unorthodox one, I'd try Lucas, because I think he has the work rate for it as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Lucas has accepted the fact that he's just going to be a squad rotation player at Spurs.
Yeah.
And when he comes in, he's working, he's putting the energy in, putting the effort in, he's fighting for every second ball. And when I see people say sell him, and they're the same people that moan we have no squad depth.
Yeah, no, well, I don't think we should sell him or Bergwijn. There's no point.
No, I think Bergwijn will go, and I think the price is going to be more like 30 million than the 20.
I actually think Conte likes him. I think he might try and convince him to stay because the amount of games.
But if Bergwijn's not going to start over Son, and Bergwijn wants to play week in, week out, is playing a couple of games a season off the bench for Spurs better than starting every week for Ajax and potentially winning the league?
I mean, you say that, but like, Conte is kind of like a big attraction, and also we are going to be playing a lot because I'm assuming we're going to be in Europe next year anyway. Regardless, we're going to play a lot more games, so he will get time, and he kind of likes playing him alongside Kane. So there might be some games where he might play a 3-5-2 and just chuck him alongside Kane.
See, don't get me wrong. I think Bergwijn's impact on the bench this season has been generally outstanding.
I personally, like, I'm not Bergwijn's biggest fan. But like you said, with Lucas, we can't really sell these kind of players because we need depth.
You need depth, exactly. For me personally, Lucas is never ever going to leave Spurs now for more than 10 million.
He won't.
So over 10 million, can we bring in an impact player who can play pretty much anywhere on the pitch apart from centre midfield or centre back, anywhere else, wing backs or attacking role? Can we get someone like that who's going to put the work rate in, desire in, have the love for Spurs that he does for 10 million? The answer is no. So at that point, he's working.
Keep him.
With Bergwijn, can we, for someone for 30 million, bring in someone who's going to potentially impact? Well, let's say, for example, right, rumour is Hakimi wants to leave PSG. Let's say he does. Conte was a massive fan of him. He had a massive impact with him.
Solve our right wing back problem right there.
Yeah, if we sell Reguilon for 40 million and Bergwijn for 30 million and then start... That's not that much different from what they paid for Hakimi, given the fact that PSG paid in euros. Hakimi starts at right wing back, and then you bring in a left wing back at that point, or you start Sessegnon and say, right, look, you're going to play week in, week out this season. You can't stay fit. This is your last year as Spurs. You stay fit, you play week in, week out, then maybe you're going to become the long-term solution, which I remember having the conversation with you way back when. This is how many years I've known him. Before I even came to uni, we had the conversation about Sessegnon when he was at Fulham. And I said that I saw him as a wing-back.
Yeah, I remember this.
Because of his attacking ability, his crossing ability he showed for Fulham. And he must have been, 16 at the time?
17, I think.
17, something like that. Because we failed to get him 2 years in a row.
Yeah, because Poch really wanted him.
We signed him right at the end. Before Poch took off.
I think with Sessegnon, with him, this is my opinion from what I've seen, and we'll go back to the game eventually after this bit. But I think he's playing like within himself. I feel like he can do better. Like he just looks scared. He just looks scared.
Do you think he's
when I see him, he looks frightened. I'm like, mate, you're obviously decent because Conte's playing you. Like, just show us that you can do more. Like, as in, I want to see him get the ball. Put the ball past the defender and just run.
Yeah, because even he played probably 6-8 weeks ago before he got injured again. And he put a fantastic cross in, and I'm pretty sure...
I remember, was it Leeds? The Leeds game?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. And I'm sitting
He played really well that game.
Put crosses in like that consistently, week in, week out. Conte's the manager to learn from defence. I don't think it helps that when he starts, he knows Ben Davies is behind him. This is where I think Emerson's on the wrong side. If Emerson was left-footed, with his mindset, it'd be better on the left-hand side. Bit more cover when Son goes forward. Great. Instead, Emerson's on the side of the pitch where we have the most cover in Romero. And
Romero just covers everything on that side.
Yeah, and then Kulusevski, whose defensive work rate is sensational.
So back to the Villa game. So we've gone past the first half now.
Yeah.
So second half. Okay, so what do you think was the change that made us play the way we did.
I think Conte said there's a couple of little things that you're not quite doing right. I'm not asking you to change everything. Change these little 1 or 2 things and believe that you're going to get 3 points. And I think that's all it needed. I don't think they got a rollicking. I don't think they got a massive knockback. I think Conte went in and went, are you happy with the first half? They went, no. We went, okay, do this, and come back with 3 points. And that's what they did.
Because, I mean, Conte talks a lot about this whole being killers and killer instinct, which is something you know me for years, right? I've wanted it on for like fucking ages. Yeah. And to me, in the second half, we kind of showed that. Like, I was like,
3-0 up, we were going for a 4, but 4-0 up, we were going for a 5th.
Yeah, like, bloody hell, where did this come from? So, like, I want to ask you also with the impact of someone like the 2 signings with Kulusevski, especially yesterday. What do you think he's added to us that's given us this extra little
He's added width, he's added versatility, he's added work rate, passion, commitment. He's added quality, I think, first and absolute foremost. He's direct, which, again, like 4 or 5 years ago, we were both sat in the same similar position saying Lamela needs to be getting 15 goal contributions a season. Kulusevski is going to hit that joining in fucking February. You know, it's ridiculous. I think the ability to have another inverted winger, again, on the opposite side of the pitch has added so much. I also like the fact that he's not afraid to cross with his weak foot. The goal for the assist he got against, who was it a few weeks ago? It was on the right-hand side and he whipped it with his right foot across. Might have been City, might have been someone else. No, who was it? Who was it we beat a few weeks ago?
West Ham.
Possibly. Hold on, let me check. There was a game. The other day, a few weeks ago, where he put a right-footed cross into the box. Who was it against? Was it West Ham? No, it wasn't West Ham. Brighton, maybe? No. I'm trying to think who the bloody hell it was against. It might have been against, was it? No, that wasn't the right one. I don't know. He put a cross into the box. Was it against Everton?
Maybe, because we won, 5-0, right? Didn't we?
Yeah, it was Son's second against Everton, and I think, he crossed it in with his right foot, and it curved all the way around on a plate, and it was just smashed in. And he's not been afraid to use his right foot to control the ball, to cut it back, to play a pass, cross the ball in. And I'm not going to say he's as two-footed as Son, because for me, Son's one of the most two-footed players in the Premier League, if not in Europe. But he definitely has a potential to become that at 21 if he's not afraid to use both of his feet. And I think the versatility that offers us is huge. You know, he's not always cutting in. Sometimes he's going to the byline. Sometimes he's putting dinking the ball across. Sometimes he's whipping it across like he did for Son's third goal yesterday. And I think for me personally, we've been crying out for an attacker who is so direct and so confident and composed on the ball for as long as I can remember.
I mean, with Kulusevski, for me, what's impressed me the most is that he has this thing where in these tight spaces, he just manages to get out of it and put in a decent ball. I just don't know how he does it. And I was talking to this actually in my previous video, right? His style kind of reminds me a bit of Suarez. I know it sounds weird, but because it's just the way he glides with the ball and the way he just cuts in and just his football intelligence for me is almost second to none.
Yeah,
and he just he knows exactly what he's going to do. He can for some reason he sometimes finds ways out of positions where if it was me or you, we'd be like, how am I going to get out of this?
I think what's good as well is it gives Kane 2 options when Kane looks for a pass, not just going into Son all the time. Which then has allowed Son the freedom to pick up pockets. And this is why, and you mentioned it before we started, this is why we don't need a number 10. Because I think Kane is going to start sitting deeper and the wingers are going to start becoming the source of goals. Because if you look at how we play now, it's Kane into Son or Son into Kane, but now it's Kane into Son or Kulusevski into Son or Kane, or Son into Kane or Kulusevski, or the fullbacks into 103, whatever. We don't need a number 10 so long as we can have 2 balanced box-to-box midfielders where they can both do both roles and they can both do them to a high level, which is why I think we missed a massive hit on Kessie. I understand why he's chosen Barcelona. Fair enough. I would probably...
But then, okay, so now on topic of Son and Kane, do you think, on evidence of yesterday, do you think... Because you mentioned about Kane dropping deep.
Yeah.
Right? So do you think they're just carrying on what they did under Jose, or do you think Conte's even improved them even more in terms of just their productivity?
Conte saw what Jose did and went, let me see if I can
do it better.
Add that to my style, which is why we've signed a left-footed right winger to play in a 3-4-3 and not, as Spurs fans constantly reply to me on TikTok, playing with a number 10 and 2 strikers. Son is not a striker unless you play FIFA. Son is not a striker, or Football Manager can get injured. Son's not a striker. We don't need to play with 2 strikers. We don't need an Eriksen. We don't need a number 10 attacking midfielder because we don't play with one. We have 2 wingers that rotate and constantly isolate around Kane with expansive fullbacks. There is a reason why Conte chose, when he looked for creativity, to sign a left-footed right winger over signing an attacking midfielder. Do people not think that if he wanted to play 2 up front, he would have signed an attacking midfielder for the same value of money in the summer, or played Kulusevski there in the first place?
See, I don't know if you... Okay, so I'm going to go against you now, but I don't know if you heard that Conte, in an interview, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, mentioned he wanted to sign an attacking midfielder to push Kane further forward.
But I think
I don't think we'll have like 2 number 10s like we used to have. But I do think that he does want to buy a creative player because in some games, right, we're kind of lucky that Villa play the way they do in some ways, and teams have been coming at us, but we still can't break low blocks.
I don't think we need it. This is the problem, though. When he says creative player, I don't think he's referring to a traditional number 10, an Eriksen and Ozil, that kind of type player. I think he's more referring to a James Ward-Prowse, pardon the choice of player, Tommy, but a Granit Xhaka, a player who can sit in the midfield, who's not as defensive as Højbjerg, and who can play the longer range passes. I think that's what he means by a creative midfielder, not people hear creative midfielders go, oh, let's get Eriksen back. Eriksen left. If you wanted to come back, he would have done.
Well, that's all the talk I see in my spaces nowadays.
Also, what's the point in, let's say we bring back a number 10 that everyone says they want, but they play in the 2 flat midfield. At that point, we have no defensive cover on the side they play on. If we bring Eriksen back, he's weak physically. He can't get into pockets of space because the second he drifts from midfield, we're left with 1 central midfield player, which is not good enough in the Premier League at all. At that point, unless you are having maybe like a Fabinho, which obviously we're never going to get that kind of player, then you need... This is why Kessie would have been perfect. A ball-winning, box-to-box midfielder who had a tendency to go forward, score goals, play the longer range passes. That's what we need. This is why, for me personally, James Ward-Prowse is my preference.
See, my thing with James Ward-Prowse is, apart from the fact he just signed a bumpy new contract, so he's going to cost a fortune. Yeah. But like, also my issue with Ward-Prowse is that I'm not saying he's a bad player, because his crossing is like really good, and his free kick is sort of his set pieces are top class. But also he's a big fish. He's a big fish in a small pond. To make the step up to someone like Tottenham, some other friends have kind of this opinion, in that he looked like Southampton. That's kind of like his top level in terms of like he's shining in Southampton because he is their best player, right?
Would he?
If he came to Tottenham, would that translate? Would that translate, or would he just be a squad player?
Okay, then. But even someone like Ruben Neves, been linked to United, Arsenal.
I'm more keen on someone like Neves, to be honest. If we're going to go that route.
For me personally, and I'll say it to the knobhead over there who's an Arsenal fan, I've been saying it for ages that Arsenal need someone like that along in their 2-man midfield to replace, to go alongside someone like Partey who sits deeper. In our midfield and the way we play, obviously not having a number 10 in front, I think you've got Ben Sankur who runs up and down like a fucking lunatic.
Yeah.
And then you need someone else who can just sit there, provide a bit more cover, but who can play the longer range passes. Yeah. When we've got a central midfielder who can play the kind of range passes, not necessarily the accuracy, but the kind of range passes Kane can play, Kane will naturally be further forward. And then Son or Kulusevski will drop back and they will all interchange as we attack. We just need a central midfielder who is competent defensively and is good positionally and who can play long range level passes. That's like, all Spurs need.
So do you not think then that Bentancur can fill that role or not? Because I don't. For me, Bentancur is like a ball recycler, and
I would rather have him as the kind of person who gets aggressive in your face, wins the ball back, and then plays a short pass to the ball playing player who can then spring it
like Neves and spreads it out.
Yeah, I think that's what you need in the two. And I know it is a game, people are going to take the piss, but I played enough Football Manager to know that trying to play a two-man midfield flat in a back three with a more attacking midfielder leaves you so exposed. But also playing it with someone without the passing ability means you're just playing triangles of player along the left or the right-hand side. Which is why Kane drops deep for us, because Bentancur releases the ball to Kane and then Kane plays the longer passes. When you've got someone a little bit further back who can play those long-range passes, Kane will be the one knocking it on to Kulusevski or Son, like he did for Son's goal, rather than being the one basically on the halfway line who picks the ball.
Because like for me with Kane, his development into the play Jose obviously Conte's using the same methods, right, or similar methods in a style of play, but it's more out of necessity because we didn't replace Eriksen. And I do think there was a lot of talk when Conte joined that he wanted to try a 3-5-2. So I do think there is room for like a number 10.
I think that was more media talk because that's what he played at Inter Milan. And we've been linked to Lautaro Martinez and all that.
I've heard Martinez, yeah.
But this is what confuses me, right? We're linked with Martinez again.
But isn't he a second striker, not really like an out-and-out striker?
This is what's confusing me. If we get a second striker like that, then a number 10 makes sense. But where's that leave Son? Where's that leave Kulusevski? And if Conte put Son at left wing back, after what he did when Son played at left wing back against him, I'm going to pull my eyeballs out.
I don't think he would do that. But the thing is also
you need like it doesn't make sense. All these players we're being linked to, none of them make sense for the system. He's just signed 2 players to play. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay, so we had a discussion before we went on there, but we linked with James Maddison today. So why? I know you told me before. Why do you not think it would work? Because I would think it would work.
He's basically the same as Eriksen. So you either play James Maddison instead of Son or Kulusevski, which wouldn't make any sense because they're both outstanding and they're both first-team starters for Spurs. And you wouldn't play him in a 2-man midfield because he can't fucking defend. And if his job is to be a number 10, he's got to be further forward, which leaves one central midfielder there to defend and cover and be a box-to-box midfielder.
But at the same time, I don't even remember. I know it's back in Poch days. You know, you played Eriksen deeper against Swansea like a couple times.
Against Swansea, that's all well and good.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. These kind of teams, though, they play low blocks, so you might be able to sacrifice a midfielder like that and play someone else like Maddison or an Eriksen.
But why not? If you're going to go and buy a midfielder who can play the long range passes and who's a bit more creative, why not go and sign a midfielder that can do both roles in a 2-man midfield when you need to defend and further more aggressive, slightly
I know. That's what I'm saying. Someone like James Maddison for me could do that, or Eriksen.
See, I don't think he could. I think he'd be caught out on his arm. See, someone like Tielemans, I think would be able to do that.
See, my issue with Tielemans though is that I don't think he can play further forward. I don't think he's effective.
But I don't think we need him to play as further forward if his passing range is far enough. I don't necessarily feel like he's a solution, but like if we were to have,
because I remember obviously the old 3-4-3 under Poch, he had Ali as like a second striker. Let's say that's Son's position now,
right?
Kane, and then he had Eriksen floating. So if you're gonna play, you could do it, right? So maybe I'm not saying Conte is gonna change his system. But I'm saying against low blocks, maybe we need that extra creativity.
But do you not think that's why we're in talks with Dybala again, though? Just as that one option.
So do you think that will happen then?
Quite possibly.
Because I don't want to go through this again.
and I'll tell you why I think it would happen. We've got players that can cut in on the right-hand side that replace Son. Dybala would give us a different style option for Kane up front if need be. He would also be a good option to rotate for Kulusevski if need be off the right. And against those opponents where, let's say we're playing against Burnley, it's 0-0, but Burnley are camped in the edge of the box for 45 minutes, you could put Dybala deeper in a 2-man midfield at that point because you're going for 3 points. And if you go for it and lose, then hey, fucking oh. And if you get it, then great. So he gives you the versatility across all the departments. But you wouldn't, I feel like, if we were to go and sign James Maddison, he would have to start every game being the kind of player, which means we either switch to a 3-5-2. And my opinion is the traditional number 10 has gone out of fashion. You look at City, Liverpool that play with a 3-4-3 now, with a 4-3-3. Look at us that play with a 3-4-3. The traditional number 10 is out of fashion because once you isolate a number 10, it becomes very easy to contain the team's creativity. When you've got wingers that are versatile, that can drift on either side, that can cross or shoot with either foot, a striker with Kane's level of passing ability, and you had a ball-playing midfielder in there as well, there's so many more options creatively than just relying for a number 10. One of the biggest issues we had was our main play went through Eriksen.
I remember,
Son at that period wasn't developed enough to get the kind of goals in the system, have the creative level he is now. And the other side was Lamella or fuck knows who. Lamella, a guy called him a boner, won the Puskas Award and then dipped. Took him 8 years to dip it, but you know what I mean? But for me personally, I don't see the point in going back to relying on the number 10 again creatively when what we're doing is working. Once you add the attacking fullbacks and you add a central midfielder with a decent passing range, you don't need that. I feel like we'd be doing it for the sake of doing it. And I feel like if we want this team to play with a Conte identity, we can't get stuck in what we've done previously, and we need to have a complete and utter change.
I know what you're saying, but like obviously you're playing someone like, I don't know, Burnley, which we struggled like badly against. They sit back with like 10 men. How are you gonna break them down? You need someone to put those passes in those little pockets because. That's why I wanted Coutinho in January, because I was like, this guy could probably solve our problems.
But then, for me personally, right, if you're going to play Coutinho in our system, you start him off the right instead of Son. At that point, for me, Son's added enough creatively. Look at his cross for the equaliser against Newcastle. Son's added enough creatively now to not need someone else to do that for him.
I think Coutinho would play in Kulusevski's position or further back, probably.
But Coutinho's strongest is on his right foot, and I don't see him cutting.
But he'll just, like the way Villa played with their three. You had Ings and Watkins, like.
But then that's Son with back being a striker again, and I don't think
as the two, and then Son will just play further forward, and Kane can play. Like I'm saying, you could basically give him a free role, Coutinho like a free role.
But I don't see the point in changing the system to fit a number 10 when we've got two wingers that already have the free roam. All we want is for Kane to be further in the box. So have it that when those two wingers are out wide and the fullbacks are even wider than them, rather than looking back to pass to Kane to break the lines, you have another midfielder which puts Kane back further forward again. Now, if you've got Ruben Neves between the halfway line and the edge of the opponent's box, looking out wide for fullbacks who can cross, for Son and Kulusevski, and then Kane central, you can't tell me that wouldn't work and wouldn't enhance what we're already doing. I don't see the point in. For me, James Maddison's not good enough for Spurs anyway. There's a reason why he's not at a top 6 club now and he's stuck at Leicester. For me personally, I don't see. I can understand why having one on the bench, but have a number 10 who can also do everything else
and play deeper. I know that's what you're trying to say. Yeah,
which is why Dybala's a great fit. Yeah. It wouldn't cost us anything. No image rights to deal with because it's a free contract. We're already in talks with him anyway, and he could do that if we absolutely worst case needed him to.
And he can also play with Dybala. You're right. He can also play as a second striker. He can play wide. I mean,
he literally is rotation in every one of the main positions that we need attacking wise.
Yeah, I still think like we probably need a striker on top of him as well. Personally,
would you not? With how Troy Parrott's playing, would you not just take a risk on putting him on the bench? Or do you think he needs another
I think we're going to see what happens in pre-season in terms of Troy Parrott. I think it's to do with the level he's playing at.
Screamer,
I know he's been scoring goals now, but it's sort of like the level he's playing at. I think you need to, for me, the biggest test for these kind of young players is you either play him at a championship team, which is doing very well, like obviously Norwich with Skip works wonders, or you play him in like a lower level, Premier League team and see how they do. And if they play week in, week out and they're successful, then.
But let me ask you this with Parrott though. He's proven it at MK Don so far this season. His finishability is there. He's playing at a team that aren't particularly playing great at the moment. He's still scoring goals. My question is to you. Let's say Champions League, we're playing, I don't know, Spartak Moscow in the.
Would you start him in the
third game? With the kind of creativity we would then have around him, no offense, the quality of chances he would get if he can't finish them then just go, please. I feel like at that point we're going to be putting them on a plate for him, which is going to increase his confidence, which is going to get him more game time against the weaker teams, which is going to be more beneficial. The problem is, okay, let me ask you this then. What's your opinion on Richarlison for Spurs? Because
I'm not hot on him at all.
I'm not a fan of him either, but he would give us options on the left and he'd give us options.
I know he can play 3 different positions, but I think it's just paper talk.
But
I
then
don't think it's like a real thing.
You're sitting there saying we need a striker.
Yeah.
If Conte is very much going to play the same 11 unless we have injuries or suspensions. So at that point, do you not think Dybala becomes the rotation? If we keep Lucas, we keep Bergwijn, and we sign Dybala, then we don't need another striker. We'd be pointless. We'd be wasting money for the sake of it.
I see what you're saying.
And then at that point, then you sign. Let's say you get Dybala on a free, you get Ruben Neves in. That all of a sudden the attack
creativity
balance is there because you'd have Højbjerg who would be rotation, Bentancur would start, Skip who would probably rotate, and then Neves and Bentancur obviously starting. Let's say you get rid of Reguilon, you're bringing someone like Kostic, who from what I've seen I'm a massive fan of, but again, there might be better options out there. You're bringing a Spence who's available at right wing back for 20 odd million this summer, and you're bringing a left-footed centre back. You're looking at maybe 100 million maximum, especially if Wolves don't get European position.
I'm a bit
100 million pounds potentially solves all of our problems and gives us a rotation without it.
I'm a bit iffy about Jed Spence, to be honest with you, because it's a big step up from the level he's at to play for us. If we had him as a backup and as like a player coming through for the future, I'd be more for it.
Let's say we get rid of Emerson then. Based on how Doherty's played the last couple of games.
I'm not confident in him as a starter.
But do you not think him and Spence rotating would improve each other's game to the level where they'd both be good?
I think Doherty's hit is. I'm not saying he's a bad player, and I think he's a good squad player.
You're saying
I think he's hit his ceiling. Yeah. I think if you bring someone like Jed Spence, you're basically saying Doherty, you're our starting right wing back. And I'm not saying he's a bad player, like I said, but I'm not keen on him.
But then, if I was to turn around to you and say Doherty started and rotated with Spence, and next season Doherty becomes the kind of player at right wing back that he was at Wolves. Bearing in mind, at one point for 3 years in a row, the only person who got more assists than him as a defender was Trent, which is fair game.
Yeah.
Do you not think that Doherty at that point for another year or so could be beneficial for Spurs and prioritising, say, Pau Torres at left centre back, Neves in centre midfield, and then Dybala on a free would be a better all-round window than spending loads of money at right back when actually Doherty is, I hate the words Premier League proven, but Premier League proven, and he has got a consistent record of doing it in that position when played there with a manager who has a trust in him. If he starts the season how he's ending it with Conte next season, then I've got no doubt that he will be good enough for a year to do a good enough job. Bearing in mind, Rome wasn't built in a day. We're not going to overhaul the whole squad in one window.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So for me, at that point, then, let's look at this from a budget point of view. Dybala's just wages and signing on fee, not a problem. Spence 20 million. Let's say you sell Emerson for 20 million, which fuck knows who we sell him to, but let's say we do. All right, that's replicated.
I think Atletico Madrid are sniffing around.
Yeah, and then Doherty stays a right wing back. So that's the right wing back done, and net spend is 0 at that point. You look at Ruben Neves, you're looking at 50 to 60 million, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Fair enough. Let's also, at the moment, Villarreal are looking at paying 35 to 40 million.
That's half of it.
That's most of it. Let's say we take a huge hit on Ndombele as well.
We're going to have to, because I don't think he's going on
No one wants him. So Ndombele and Lo Celso sales pay for Neves, 0 net spend again. At that point, then, you're looking at what? Potentially a left wing back. Let's say Kostic, or use an example. You're looking at 10 to 15 million, given his age and contract status. And then Pau Torres at 70 million. If we get Champions League football, 80 million, not including any other outgoings, is not a lot of a net spend. That has our starting 11 at Lloris, Pau Torres, Eric Dyer, Romero, Spence and Doherty, or Reguilon and Davies, Ruben Neves and Bentancur, Son, Kane, Kulusevski with Dybala, Lucas and Bergwijn as attacking rotation. You can't tell me that wouldn't be the best squad we've had in years.
Yeah. But the only reservation with signing someone like Jed Spence is, again, he's sort of like, I'm not saying
it's a hype player initially, but when we spoke about it, 3 years ago, these were the kind of players that Spurs waited too long to sign, and then
I know what you're saying, but like I think if we got him and just loan him back out, and then we still got
let's say we get him and loan him back out. Then
I wouldn't be against that, but we still need to sign another right wing back because they're going to have to push.
But at that point, then, let's say Reguilon goes and Kostic and Sessegnon do rotate on the left. That's another 40 million to sign a starting right wing back, and we're still looking at no more than a 60 or 70 million pound net spend, and completely transforming our squad. Realistically, Champions League football, Kane and Conte stay in. Obviously, I'm listing players that I would choose personally based on how we play.
I know we're just talking
generalized, but Conte get those players in. It's not going to be impossible for Conte to get the kind of players in to make the significant impacts on the final few positions that need it for Spurs, for us to then go and be consistent top 4 title challengers at that point.
So do you think, so on topic on Villa now, do you think that, so how many of the players that played yesterday do you think will start next season?
Lloris, yes. Yeah. Romero, yes. Dyer, yes. And Dyer's an iffy one for me. He will need replacing. But I think right now he's
not
almost
a priority.
Up. Yeah, he's almost stepped up like captain mindset with how he's helped some of the other players. So I think Dyer stays. Davies, I don't think will start. Yeah. I think we will get a left-sided centre half. Reguilon, I don't think will start. I think he will go, and Emerson will go. I think other than that, everyone else will stay. Højbjerg's an iffy one, because I think Conte would rather improve the fullbacks than the centre midfield. And obviously Skip as well when he eventually decides not to be injured anymore. Sorry, Skip, if you're ever watching this. But other than that, I think mainly it's just a left-sided centre-back and the 2 fullbacks.
At least for me, my priorities are left-sided centre-back. We need at least 1 fullback or right wing back for me. We need a central midfielder / attacking midfielder, whatever you want to call it. And we need a striker of some sort. For me,
I mean,
it's the same positions as you said, but it's whether Conte wants to fit it in the sense of for me with Neves, I really like Neves, right?
Yeah.
But can he play further forward if we need him to play further forward? Has he done that before for Wolves?
No, but I think he did, but it was Championship. But I think
for me, we're talking of someone like Moutinho and that sort of ilk, where Moutinho sort of can play deeper, but he also plays a number 10.
See, that would be fine.
Obviously, he would be not ideal, but obviously he's too old now. But I'm saying someone of that.
10 years ago, if it was 10 years ago when we tried to sign him, who would be perfect if he wants to come out of retirement? Rafael van der Vaart.
Yeah.
He would literally.
I don't think he can do the 90 minutes anymore, though.
No, I think he'd be puffing.
He was I love Van der Vaart, but he was.
Is his son 16 yet? Can we drag him in and get him in?
This is proper Levy talk now. It's like, can we get him in?
I think we need to look at someone like that. This is what frustrates me, where I say someone like Lo Celso's profile would have been perfect. The guy's just a lazy fucker.
He's just honestly, Lo Celso for me is a bigger disappointment than Ndombele. Just my opinion. I'm so disappointed.
The money we spent on Ndombele for me is fucking joke.
Because at least with Ndombele, you get I feel like we got something out of him.
Someone like,
but Lo Celso didn't get anything.
Would you not look at someone? And I know they'd be robbing us again. But would you not look at someone like Paqueta? Do you know? I tell you who would be perfect this season. I don't know whether he'd be willing to start further deeper, but Nkunku from Leipzig would be absolutely.
I've heard a lot of talk about him actually.
He's absolutely brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I would rather take a chance on Neves and then have to drop Kane a little bit deeper on the very few occasions we need it than I would go and sign a number 10 and then end up arse over head on the midfield.
But so on topic of transfers now, because we finished it with a game, I think. But do you think Conte will actually get backed in the summer?
If we get top 4, yes. If not, he walks.
Do you think he goes with Kane if we don't get top 4?
Yeah.
Now, another question now. Do you think we'll make top 4? Because I think we will.
See, don't say this. So I did a prediction thing on TikTok the other day where I went through the results between Spurs and Arsenal between now and the end of the season. Yeah. And it had Arsenal finishing a point above Spurs with us drawing the North London derby 2-2 and then losing to Chelsea 2-0.
See, I think we'll lose to Liverpool, but I think we'll beat Arsenal.
See, I had us losing to Liverpool on that. However, I did have Arsenal beating Brighton 1-0 and they lost 2-1.
That completely messed up.
Based on that, don't trust anything I say. No.
I think for me, the momentum's with us.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
And you know what? Do you think, I don't know if you agree with me with this, do you think the West Ham game was a big one for us? Because when we broke that win-loss bullshit, like, for me, that was, I was at that game, and I felt like psychologically, we felt like we went over like a massive, I don't know what to say, line or something.
We went over a massive hurdle. And
once we went that, it's just taking teams to the sword, bastardly games. So.
Yeah. And this is what makes me say right now, like, I know your opinions on the number 10 and Madison or whatever, but this is what makes me say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why would you change a system that's clearly working when you can enhance the 1 or 2 areas that need it to make the system perfect? It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I don't know.
See, I can personally, I think a month ago, I literally wrote up top 4. I was like, this is not going to happen. And then we beat West Ham.
Yeah, I found out the other day. You know, Arsenal were 11 points ahead of us at one point.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Oh, so good. I can't really say that.
But like, for me, like, I think that game, that West Ham game, for me was a big one because we had that win-loss bullshit, and obviously, for me, I would given up as soon as we lost those 2 home games to Southampton and Wolves. I was like, "This is it. There's no way we're coming back from this."
Yeah, because the performances weren't even great either. It was.
I was like, "We're dead. We're dead and buried." And then Kulusevski came in the team. Obviously, Bentancur's coming in the team, and for me, it's given us a little bit of.
But this is what you're saying. You said point blank. Conte wanted a creative player. Yeah. We were struggling with goals. Kulusevski's coming in the team. We're more creative. We're scoring more goals. Surely that says Conte got what he wanted. So why people are still forcing it that we need another creative player? No, we just need creative rotation, which Dybala can provide that. Other players out there can provide that if we don't get him.
My only issue, like, don't get me wrong, Dybala's quality, and he like tore us apart when we played Juve a few years ago, and I've always liked him as a player. My only issue with him is his injury record is like a bit.
But if he's a rotation player and he's injured every couple of weeks, then what difference does it make as long as he can come off the bench in the games we need him?
Yeah. Okay, so another random one, apart from Eriksen, because I'm going to skip that. A lot of people talking about Bale coming back. Do you see it happening? And okay, that's a no then. Do you see it happening? And if it happens, like, where does he play? Because
if it happens, he plays on the bench. For me, if it happens, he rotates for Kulusevski.
For me, now you'd have to use Bale in a very weird way in the sense you're going to lose. You've got to use him 30 minutes here and there.
But yeah, Bale would be an impact.
And maybe start the cup games.
If Bale comes back, it's exactly what Ronaldo was to United. It's another money grab for me.
I actually think, personally for me, I'm actually kind of against the move.
Yeah, I think I am.
My head says no, but my heart says yes. It's that sort of thing.
Do you know what?
I love it because it's fucking Bale. I got so many memories with Bale when I was younger, like 10 years ago.
I've got an idea. Bring him in, play him at left back, hook him on steroids for a season, and we're all good.
Left wing back.
Why not? The guy can still cross. Do you know what? Actually, having him off the bench, coming in at
left, not a bad option.
No, it's not. Do you reckon
we've got 5 subs? We've got 5 subs next year. I heard. So
yeah. See, this is another reason why we need the rotation. I don't know. If Bale was willing to go on 150 grand a week or less, then fine. If he's not,
he's going to ask.
I'm not paying a bench player 600 grand a week. Do I look like a mug?
To play golf.
Yeah, exactly. Just sit there and like. And Bale ain't going to be able to play golf for half the year in this country because it's pissing it down. It's got an indoor golf centre.
But like, from what I heard, he's going to want at least 250 grand a week.
Yeah, no thanks.
And then people were talking about, in the space I was on just before I came on here, about saying, "Oh, give him a pay-as-you-play deal." But I'm like, he ain't going to sign that.
Yeah, no, he won't sign that. Why would he sign that?
He wants guaranteed money, and he wants golf, and he wants game time for Wales.
He wants golf, Wales, and then whatever else.
And then Spurs are just his hobby.
Exactly, and for me personally, I think Bale needs to.
I think he needs to go to MLS personally. Do
you know what? I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him go to somewhere like Cardiff, and just play there until the next international tournament with Wales, and then fuck off afterwards.
Would you take the Defoe out of retirement?
Fucking hell. Hey, Pavlyuchenko, what are you up to these days, mate?
What are
you doing, bro? Actually, working in the airport, I was talking to a Bulgarian the other day about Dimitar Berbatov, and he was just saying, like, we all thought he was our best chance of qualifying for any sort of international tournaments for years. I'd take Berbatov out of retirement. The guy was doing it at Monaco when he had a receding hairline at 37. He was still banging in goals.
I remember his goal against Arsenal. Do you remember in that game?
Which one?
When they beat them at the Emirates, like 3-0, 3-1 or something.
Oh, God knows.
It was years ago, but I remember Monaco went to Arsenal and just beat them. Because
Arsenal, yeah.
And Arsenal were like expecting, like, yeah, we're going to roll over them. We've got a good draw now. And then Monaco went and beat them. But the thing with Berbatov for me, he's one of those players where you kind of have to just allow him to be the way he is.
Yeah.
You're not going to get... He wouldn't have worked under someone like Conte or Poch.
No. See,
because he's just not that kind of player. Like,
if we're bringing players out of retirement, Ledley, do you want me on the knee? Coming over a guy, you can't be much worse.
He's not left-footed though. So.
Yeah. But put Aaron Lennon at wing back.
Okay, so in terms of Dyer, and you mentioned him yesterday, I noticed something really bad in the first half from him. God. He was just like lumping the ball and kicking it out, smacking at Villa players. I think you noticed that.
Do you know what? I found that quite amusing.
But do you think Dyer is like? Do you think he's been kept because of his leadership?
I think so. Yeah.
Because I don't like I see him as a squad player personally. I don't think he's going to be a starter in 2 years.
No, I don't think he's a starter, but I think the stability when we're bringing in a left centre back and potentially another centre midfielder in front of Dyer, like two positions directly in proportion to where Dyer is.
Especially
new players from other leagues that haven't been at Spurs before. If we bring those in, we need someone like Dyer. Apparently, Kulusevski said he's helped him settle massively.
Really?
Romero said that the stability and confidence he's given him in midfield, in defence, which God knows if he's ever watched Eric Dyer before he came to Spurs, but clearly not. Yeah. That kind of stability in defence that he's given him as a person, as a personality. I actually think Dyer's helped Lloris a little bit as well. I think Lloris has come a bit more out of his shell again. We've always said that Lloris hasn't been the most vocal captain at times. And I think right now, if you were to say to me, would you give Dyer the captain's armband? Lloris doesn't start next year. Who would you give the captain armband to? The answer would be Dyer at the moment. Which at that point, then he becomes undroppable. Yeah. And I think maybe for one more season, because I'm still not banking on Conte being here for more than 2 more years. So Dyer being the heart of the defence. There's a reason why Jose wanted him at centre-back, no matter whether we played at a 4 or a 3. There's a reason why Conte now has him in the heart of his defence. And it's not because of his defensive ability. So the only other thing it can be is because of his leadership. Well, if it's because of his leadership, then for me, that makes him undroppable for the time being. And at that point, then, you bring the other signings in to build around him. And then you bring, because let's say, right, loads of people said about De Vries from.
I was going to mention him, right? Actually.
let's say we brought in Pau Torres as a left centre back, who'd be my choice, and De
Vries in the middle.
At that point, then Lloris either has to integrate everyone or no one integrates everyone. We've seen what defenders who haven't settled well can do in the Premier League, and it's not great. So at that point, then wouldn't it not be better to sign Pau Torres for the first year, let him settle first?
Then bring De Vries afterwards. Yeah,
exactly.
Because also, like you said, I mean, you know what Levy's like anyway. But so, do you think Levy's going to let Paratici just run it? He's going to give him like a budget and just let him run it.
I think, given the structure of the deal for Kulusevski, Daniel Levy would have been in there sweating at all the different clauses that are in that. Champions League football, we're paying more money. Oh no, we can't be having that.
We can't give him more money.
Get on with it, and it looks like this summer we're going to sign him for 25 million, which is a fucking ridiculous price, by the way,
considering what he's done.
Exactly, and the fact he's 21.
So, do you think Kulusevski? Because I know Allegri didn't fancy him. Do you think he was a player that just didn't fit Juve's system and Juve's like just style, and then and with obviously Kulusevski on paper anyway, you'd think he's not the fastest, but he's got strength, height. He's obviously got the skill.
There's a reason why, and this is what makes me say Conte was planning to switch to a 3-4-3 at Inter Milan, because he had Lukaku as the main hold-up striker. Martinez had played off the left before anyway, and he tried to sign Kulusevski, and Juventus wouldn't sell for a rival.
I heard that as well.
Now imagine Kulusevski in a league he was already in and had already bossed before on the right, Martinez on the left, and then Lukaku through the middle. Yeah. All of a sudden, that's nothing but goals.
Yeah.
So at that point, then you're sitting there and saying, well, actually, that makes sense. I'll tell you what, another player I'd like Spurs to go after, if he doesn't get a chance under potentially Ten Hag or Pochettino, is Donny van der Beek.
I knew you'd say
that. Him alongside Bentancur, I think he can do the job of both.
I think he's not a bad shout, but I don't know what happens to his confidence now at United. And United wouldn't sell to us anyway.
It's United, isn't it? So fuck.
Like at Everton, he hasn't really done anything. But then has he played? I don't know.
But then neither was Frank Lampard, Dele Alli, or any of the other bloody players there. Apart from
Dele Alli's another story. But
well, yeah, but let's not go there.
I think you know my thoughts on him.
At that point, when you're talking about a rotation striker, then would you look for someone like Dominic Calvert-Lewin?
I don't think it's a bad shout. You know, I don't think it's a bad shout.
But I think Everton have to go down to sign a player like that.
I think I wouldn't think it'd be a bad backup, to be honest with you.
Another player I saw, I'm in a group chat with Spurs fans. Another player we were talking about earlier for left wing back, based on his XG creation and interceptions per game, tackle per game, etc., would be someone like Dwight McNeil. Now that's
not bad, actually,
different dimension at left wing back.
He's not bad actually. He's the one Burnley player who has a bit of flair with him.
Yeah.
Along with what's the other guy they call? I forgot his name.
Weghorst.
No. He's a target man. They got a bit of creativity. What's his name again? The African player they got.
Max Cornet.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah. See, I wanted Weghorst. I was in my summer rebuild. Weghorst was always the backup option
because he's
always
the target man as well. Yeah.
See?
He's a target man, isn't he? Weghorst.
Yeah, but I feel like that with Son and Kulusevski off him would be.
Yeah, I mean, we would score goals, wouldn't he? Yeah.
And imagine Kane coming off Weghorst.
Yeah.
If Burnley go down, for me, he's far too good to be in the Championship. The guy's playing Champions League football.
And to be honest, like Conte would sign a striker like that because he likes like Lukaku. So
Dzeko that was signed at Inter Milan before Conte left. Players like that, you know. I don't know. I think it's definitely an option for Spurs, and I don't think it costs. Considering it cost Burnley,
he won't cost a lot, would he?
No,
I don't think. But also, on top of Villa, do you think they were like too aggressive with us yesterday?
Absolutely. I think there was a bit of naivety and inexperience. And
like
when
Ashley Young's tackle near the end, like what the hell was that?
He's just a prick, to be honest.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah, I don't know. I just think, yeah, I don't know. There was a bit. It was almost like they worked hard. They ran around a lot. They worked hard, and then they thought that would win them the game. And when it didn't, they started getting pissed off with themselves, and then ultimately getting pissed off with
inexperience, I guess.
A bit of inexperience, and I think a little bit of the squad's not quite as together as it needs to be just yet.
Okay,
it will happen under Gerrard for sure.
This has nothing to do with Tottenham, but do you think Gerrard will end up at Liverpool in 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, it's a whole other different conversation, but yes, and I also think
he will.
English manager to win the Premier League.
I think he will because I think compared to Lampard,
watched a lot of Gerrard at Rangers, and he's going to be a top manager.
I can tell.
He needs to
experience.
To get the experience, and he needs to get the changes to the Aston Villa squad to get them fully playing the way he wants to.
What I've noticed with Gerrard is that he's gone on a different trajectory to Lampard because Lampard went from Derby to Chelsea, and I think that's kind of what hurt him a bit.
Yeah, he wasn't willing to really learn from his mistakes, and he jumped at the first sign of trouble. This is why I think Wayne Rooney is going to be an outstanding manager because he's thrown himself in the deep end and got
in the lower leagues and
all the issues with Derby. He's dealt with them head on, rather than run away like a coward. Which is what Lampard
with Lampard, I think if he with Gerrard, because obviously he did well at Rangers. Yeah. Now he's gone to Villa. He's sort of like building himself up. With Lampard, he went straight from Derby to Chelsea. And I was like, this is like a massive step up. You don't know what you're getting into. At the same time, I can see why he took the job because it's like, well, he's a Chelsea legend. Are you really going to turn that down? No, you're not really.
Yeah, but in the same sense, you've also got to do it when it's ready. Look at Rooney. He turned down Everton saying, I want to be Man United manager one day, but I have a lot of growing room to do before I can even accept that job. And if they were
maybe he should have done that.
I wouldn't take it.
But I think Lampard saw the starlights and he was like, I'm going.
Yeah, Lampard saw his name in shining lights, jumped for it, and actually fell flat on his face, which is quite funny, to be fair.
Because I think in some ways he's probably, I know it sounds weird because it's not going to happen now because the past is the past. But I think if he went to Derby to Everton and then did say okay at Everton and then went to Chelsea, I think he would have been more successful.
Yeah.
Rather than the other way around now, where he's just jumped at the Everton job because he ain't got a job.
Yeah. That's effectively what he's done. And Crystal Palace dodged a massive bullet.
I mean, Vieira's done brilliant at Palace.
Yeah.
He's another one.
Don't smoke the twat over there, Zorn, because otherwise I'll never hear the end of it. But no, he's done
okay. So in terms of Tottenham, then, do you think there'll be like an ex-Spurs player in like 5 years' time who'll come back and? like the
I
same
think
sort of
Ryan Mason's going to get a long shot within the next 10 years. He's going to get like 3 or 4. Yeah. No offense, but he's learned under Jose. He's learned under Conte. If the guy turns out to be a shit manager, he got no hope. If you tactically, unbelievably against Spurs, West Ham and Arsenal all losing as well as Spurs winning. I didn't read the rest of it. But yeah, great weekend for Spurs in the end. 4 places well and truly on. Hopefully we can, but hope. But yeah, I think I don't know.
I think we're favourites top 4 now, to be honest.
Yeah, but I don't like that because all the pressure's on. And North London Derby, imagine Arsenal get to 4th by winning North London Derby at our. I just fuck that.
You know what? Before, if we were under like a different manager, I'd be more worried. And this is normally me, Mr. Negative.
If it was the end,
but like Conte,
going to beat us. But because
Conte for me, I just think he's got us together now.
Yeah,
and we have these patterns now that you see in our play.
Yeah,
and I think we're organised. We're resilient. I think yesterday showed that we were very resilient.
Yeah.
I thought we were gonna as soon as Villa had the ball, I was like, oh no, we're gonna concede. And then we got through that period, and I think that was a massive period of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really do think we're gonna make the top 4 now because, like I said, I still think we'll lose to Liverpool and we'll beat Arsenal. That'll be our little blip.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. What's frustrating me the most is people sitting there and saying, "Oh, Champions League, Spurs can sign the better players." The last time we were in it, Barcelona are losing. What the fuck? The last time we were in the Champions League, we didn't sign the better players anyway.
We signed Kudu, Janssen, Sissoko.
Exactly. So what fucking difference does it make? I'm trying to just think. I'm kind of thinking about what players
level of player as well
I would want at Spurs that are in the Premier League at the moment from clubs that might not necessarily be able to keep those players next season. Norwich, there isn't really anyone. Watford, there isn't really anyone. Burnley, as I say, Weghorst and McNeil are the big ones for me.
Cornet.
Not Cornet because he used to play for Chelsea.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm good.
But didn't Doherty used to be an Arsenal fan?
Yeah, well, yeah, but do you remember all the memes when we signed him and Spurs?
Yeah, it was like
fucking joke, mate. Once it's out there, it's out there. I'd love Rafinha from Leeds, but I think that's unrealistic.
I really like him as well. I think he's really good.
I think Patrick Bamford wouldn't be a bad shout as a backup striker.
A lot of people have been speaking about it. And he's English as well, so he kind of fits the homegrown.
Another homegrown. An absolute, he's never really going to play for us, but it just gives him a nice paycheck and gives us an option if we need it. Great show, lads. Keep it the content. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd love, if we had any chance of getting him, I'd love Livramento from Southampton. I know he's ex-Chelsea.
So I was talking to someone else about this earlier. Do you think he can make the transition from a right back to a right wing back?
Yes, absolutely. But he needs to be at a bigger club before his Spurs. Like a bigger club in Southampton before Spurs. He needs to be at like a Wolves or a Leicester before Spurs. But then at that point, then we're looking at pay. See, this is why Spurs are so shit, man, because we either sign the player when they're worth 10 million, which is far too much for the age they're at, and then they end up being shit. Or we wait until they're worth 50 million and go, oh,
we don't buy him.
Too much. I can't spend that money. What if I lose it? Like, make your fucking mind up. But I can understand why, because, it's kind of catch-22.
But like for me, like with Jed Spence, like I said, for me, if we sign him, I think we kind of have to loan him out to a Premier League team.
But then I think if we don't sign him,
someone else will buy him. I know what you're saying.
And then in 20 years' time, in 10 years' time, whatever, he'll be a
superstar. Like he has got the talent. I've seen him.
I'll tell you a player I'd like to replace Reguilon if he goes is Cucurella from Brighton at left wing.
I like him too.
He has been fantastic. Yeah. He's been absolutely.
So, what's your thoughts on Lamptey then? Because his injury record is a big thing for me.
I don't think for the amount of you're paying for the fact he's English and the fact that he's 20, not for the fact. Like, if we were to sign Cucurella from Brighton, you'd be looking at 35 million, not 50 million.
Yeah. How about Bissouma? So they're talking Brighton.
No, because, and nothing to do with him as a player.
Yeah, to his sex charge, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but while that's still pending, I want nothing to do with that. I think we better aim for better than Bamford as a backup. Personally, I would love someone to change our front three at the moment, like Dybala. Also, Eriksen on the free is a no-brainer. Yeah, I still disagree with Eriksen, but I agree with you on Dybala there, to be honest. I'll tell you someone who I would like as well, and I think it'd be hard to sign him, but I'd like Buendia from Villa. I think he could sit deeper, he could play on the wing, and he could play as a 10 if needed.
Yeah, he's a good shout, actually.
But again, I think it'd be too expensive because he's only been there, 2 years?
Yeah, actually. They only signed him in the summer, I think. But he doesn't even start for them anymore. Like, he came off the bench yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's more just bad form, to be honest.
Because they got Coutinho, and now he's just not playing, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I'm just going by teams in the Premier League. A little bit late now. I wanted him when he was at Birmingham, but Damari Gray, people have mentioned off the bench for a substitute, and I'd be happy with that. But again, he's starting for Everton and starting to put in good performances. Why would you want to go back to being a bench player again?
I think with Everton, do you think the issue is more to do with personnel or the manager?
Personnel, mindset, ownership,
everything.
Literally, it's accumulation of everything.
You know what? I was very shocked. I was very shocked they let Digne go.
Yeah, but he wanted it was to back Rafa and then end up sacking Rafa anyway, which is the most Everton thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's frustrating.
He would have been a good shout for me, Digne. I don't think he's a bad player.
What I look at with Everton, I think they've got the wrong group of players in that have the wrong mindset and mentality. They're all on huge wages because they're trying to compete with the top six by signing washed players from European leagues. They've got a manager with no relegation experience and minimal managerial experience in general. And they're dangerously in all right, they're like 4-5 points clear now, which is fucking jammy. But I'll tell you what, another question. And I know it was kind of rubbish how he left Spurs, but as a left-footed winger rotation on the right-hand side, would you take Andros Townsend back for 2 years?
You know what? I've met him.
Really, right?
I've met him.
My thought process, right?
I actually like Townsend.
My thought process, right? He's Everton's top goal scorer. So even at 31, he's still getting goals. He's left-footed. He's not going to start, but it's rotation. He's not just country homegrown. He's club homegrown as well. At that point, then, that gives us so many options, European one. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want this whole whatever. But if he's going to come back on 25 grand a week and sit on the bench and get a couple of goals or assists off the bench occasionally, then is that not what depth is for?
I mean, with me with Townsend, bringing him back is more out of romanticism because I've actually met him. So and because back in the day when I was like writing constantly on my blog, trying to become a journalist, right? I actually met him in person and did an interview with him. This was like in like the second year of Poch, the Leicester season. Before he was sold. It was like a month before he was sold. And he's half Greek, so I kind of have like a bias towards him. So I'm probably not the right person to get like an honest answer from. Like, I don't know whether he'd come back anyway. Like, I don't think he would.
I think it would be a logical deal.
I believe he wouldn't sign it because of his age anyway.
Yeah, but he'd be on a free anyway, wouldn't he? Because I'm pretty sure
he's going on a free.
It's either this year or next year, so we'd be looking at no more than a couple of million maximum for him.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. He doesn't seem as like a Conte type player to me. But
I don't know.
That would be nice, but it's like the same sort of feeling as I have. Like, oh, let's bring Eriksen back. Oh, let's bring Bale back. Let's bring Townsend back. Let's bring the whole crew back. It's like
if we were going to bring a washed left-footed right winger back, then you'd probably take Bale over Townsend.
That's what I'm saying. What do you want?
No.
I think with Bale also he has more marketability. Like people will buy his shirt for sure.
I regret not buying the Bale shirt. I hated the shirt that year. Ended up with the shirt on sale at the end of the year anyway, and didn't get Bale on the back. And I'm still sad about it.
I've never bought a Bale shirt. I actually haven't bought a shirt since we left the lane.
Really?
Yeah.
I've only had a couple, but 2 of them I didn't buy. One's got Sissoko on the back. That was a great
Oh, God.
And the other one's been so worn that the number's falling off. So I need to buy. I'm probably going to get Son on the Galaxy kit and Kulusevski on the home kit this season if they've got it in stock.
I mean, Son's just a dead cert for most people nowadays. So.
But But yeah, I don't. We're in for a bumpy ride to the end of the season.
Yeah, I think But hand on heart, before I let you go, top 4, yes or no?
See, I dodged the question the first time you asked
me.
I'm going to let you ask me again. He's being a wanker over there. I'm gonna say yes, because the idea of us not and then Conte and Kane going makes me want to.
It's not feasible, is it, to think about?
No, it's not. I'm gonna say yes, but it's gonna literally be by like 1, maybe 2 points. It's gonna be really close, unless Arsenal keep playing Granit Xhaka at left back, in which case Arsenal are gonna be in the relegation zone
by the end of the season. So where do you see us dropping points then? If it's going to be that close, where do you see, apart from Liverpool, do you see us dropping points?
Let me. I'm going to actually look at 18 notifications on TikTok. Jesus Christ! Give me 2 seconds. Loads of people spamming the likes videos, and loads of people have come from the video I posted as well. New to the channel.
Can you play for Team Manager?
Chat. I can tell you play Football Manager. Lots of praise to you, 2 new players. Love it. How impressed are you both with Romero?
Yeah, it's about Romero.
Romero's been fantastic, and we were saying before actually that he's gone from looking a bit hot-headed and a bit rash to being really calm, really composed, really good on the ball, and I think that is all Conte and all Romero's mentality. And it's massive. And he's probably one of the best defenders we've had for years, to be honest. I would love to have seen Jan Vertonghen and Toby Romero in the back 3.
That would have been pretty sick to watch, to be honest. For me, with Romero, I think he's just added a bit of aggressiveness in our back 3 that we kind of needed. Yeah. And he just doesn't. He's so savage. He just don't care. I just remember that bit in the Villa game when he just shoved the player out the way when we went for a goal kick. I was just like, this guy don't care, man. But he's just added a bit of aggressiveness, a bit of, in some ways, a little bit of leadership as well, because he's got, like, even his age, he's got experience.
Yeah.
What he is. And he's just added a bit of, he can even play. You see him bombing forward sometimes. I think he's been a brilliant signing.
So our results to the end of the season, ignore the voices, my TikTok. So I had us beating Villa 2-1, which obviously won 4-0. I have us beating Brighton 2-0. Obviously, we don't play the week Arsenal play Chelsea. I had us beating Brentford 1-0, but I see that being a game that will drop points. Beating Leicester 2-0, losing 3-0 to Liverpool, drawing 2-2 with Arsenal, beating Burnley 2-1 and beating Norwich 4-0. And then I had Arsenal beating Brighton 1-0, which you love. I had them beating Southampton 2-1, which basically, if Southampton play half the way they played against Chelsea, then Arsenal will win that comfortably. I had them losing 2-0 to Chelsea, beating Man United 1-0, which I still see that happening, drawing 1-1 with West Ham, beating Leeds 3-0, drawing obviously 2-2 with us, beating Newcastle 2-1 and beating Everton 4-0 on the last day of the season. And that had Arsenal a point above Spurs. Obviously, the Brighton game now swapped that. So
I laugh if we don't drop points to Chelsea or West Ham.
I won't.
Do you see Chelsea dropping off at all or not? I think.
I think Chelsea will drop off, but they'll still take points.
I think they'll be all right. I think they'll get third, by a whisker.
They'll get third, but I don't think it's going to be as clean sailing as I expected it to be, given the fact that I predicted them to be title winners at the start of the season. So,
to be honest, I said the same thing.
Yeah. Agree, Jan and Toby top class. Also, Sam Johnson potential in the arrival. Do you rate him? Do you know what? When he was at West Brom in the Premier League, he was top class, top class, and he looked like he was going to go and be West Ham's number 1. Which I think he would have been a great job at. West Brom this season just look all over the place. He's had a shit season, but so is their entire squad. They're falling out of the championship playoff race quicker than I care to count. For me personally, as a backup on a free, I think it'll be a great option, and I don't want to sign Guilini permanently. I thought he was going to be a good move. I've regretted it, and for me, I just think he needs to go. I
think Guilini needs to stick to his rapping, to be honest.
Yeah.
Better music career. But for me, for Sam Johnston, I'm taking him because he's free. He's English. He has potential to be a good goal.
And the last time he was in the Premier League, he was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not against the move.
I think he needs a change of scenery, and I think it's a logical move from the club. Apparently,
I think he can't afford to spend so much in that position now.
When you look at his kicking as well, his kicking's one of the biggest issues we have with Lloris, his distribution. Sam Johnson's distribution is really good, which is one of the reasons West Brom were able to play the way they played in Sam Allardyce, because the goalkeeper could hoof it long and actually get it to the players. So I think that option for Spurs, especially in the lower domestic cups and maybe 1 or 2 games in the Champions League, touch wood, I don't think it'd be a bad option at all. I really don't.
So we're going for like an hour and 25 minutes now, which
is no surprise. We can sit and chat for hours.
No surprise with both of us. So I think I'm going to let you go before we end up here till like tomorrow. So
I appreciate I mean, I've got work tomorrow and stuff, but it's been good to
it's good been catching up.
It's been nice. Definitely
good. Thanks for coming on as well. I'll have you on again for sure.
Yeah, lovely. For those of you guys, quickly before I shoot, for those of you
want to
guys
plug your TikTok or something,
because I don't like. Obviously, I deleted my big Twitter account because of stuff with my old boss, which then that ended up going to rubbish. So my TikTok is DA_vids19 or David_19. If you follow me, I'll follow you back. Loads of videos. I post Spurs content every single day, loads of random stuff on there. So go follow my TikTok. I'm also going to be streaming a Spurs live rebuild Football Manager save on Wednesday on my day off at work, because I was in work for 5 days, off for 3 days, and then I'm in for a day and then off for 2 days again. So on those 2 days off, I'll be on the second of those 2 days off during the day. I'm going to be streaming Spurs Football Manager over there during the day. So feel free to come over, watch, say hello, and we'll chat shit about Spurs.
Yeah, so if you want to watch fancy Spurs stuff, David's your guy.
Yeah, if you want to watch Spurs have a real chance to win the league, then come and watch me play Football Manager on Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly.
Appreciate the comments, guys. It's been lovely.
Yeah,
and sorry about having an Arsenal fan in my room as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to follow me, I'm on Hasper92 on Twitter. I'll be obviously doing this again in a preview for next game in the next couple of days. Probably when do we play? Sunday, so I'll probably do like Thursday or Friday.
Saturday, the early kickoff.
Saturday this week.
Yeah, against Brighton.
So I have to do it on like Thursday or Friday probably, and the review will be up on Sunday probably again. So take care, guys, and up the Spurs.
Yes, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.